opening remarks and into Mr. Song. Councilmember Andrews.
Thanks, Council President Rice. Well, I think you explained very well the procedure I think the council should follow in terms of the court case, because it's not up to the council to decide whether there are merits to that court case or court challenge or not. And as you noted, the MSI is not objecting to the idea of an artificial turf field. They have an issue with the selection of the user, the preferred user for the field and the partner. So that's an issue that will be decided on its merits in court at some point, and I don't think it should influence our decision on whether to go forward with artificial turf. And I do think artificial turf has more benefits than drawbacks. The main benefit of artificial turf is the massive amount of increased playing time that you get from it, and it makes a particular difference here, given the weather that we have in this area that often makes our natural turf fields unplayable, in addition to their needing to be rested under any conditions much more than any artificial turf, which can be played on almost immediately after rain stops. So the advantages of artificial turf are primarily the increased use, the substantially increased use that the community and the schools get out of it. I am glad to see that the school board is bidding out both options of crumb rubber and cork and coconut husk, because one of the concerns that has been raised about artificial turf is the crumb rubber that's used in most of the current fields that have artificial turf, and potential health effects that have been raised or environmental impacts that have been raised from that. I'll be interested to hear how the school system evaluates the benefits and drawbacks of each of those options. There's more experience at this point with the crumb rubber, but it may be that cork and coconut husk, which Gaithersburg has just approved for its artificial turf field, may be the way to go. I don't know. We'll find out more with the results, not only the bidding, which will reveal at least the price impacts, but also additional information that the school system is looking at and that I'll be interested to see about the experience of fields that are made with cork and coconut husk versus the crumb rubber. I am interested to know how the school system has worked with the community to address any concerns that the neighborhood nearby may have about the increased use that you'll have with the field at Churchill High School in this case. This is the fifth or sixth field that we're looking at. I believe it's the fifth within the school system. Is it sixth? Sixth? Okay. For artificial turf, it's the second one that would not be done as part of the modernization process. It would be done similar to how Wooten's field was done, with a private partner out in that sense, being done not as part of modernization. And the experience in terms of the use of artificial fields so far from the users of the field seem to be very positive. The teams, the athletic directors, the people that actually use the field seem to find it very beneficial and favorable, and we're getting a lot of use, and that, it has to be said, reduces the need to build more fields or to knock down trees to build artificial turf or natural field turfs elsewhere. And so there are, those are some of the other benefits of having artificial turf. But so, Mr. Song, what has the school system done to work with the community, to inform the community? That doesn't mean you'll please every member of the community, I understand, but how are you reaching out to the community, and what's been the opportunity for the community to share its views with the school system about this particular proposal?
Sure. So before I answer all those comments and questions, let me address the community involvement. And so this is merely a proposal stage, and we got the blessing from the board, and that supports the partnership to install additional artificial turf at Churchill High School. So the next step in the process is once the council approves the supplemental appropriation, the design process begins where there is going to be involvement for community to get involved. And yes, there will be some impact. Traffic for increase in use, noise, and those are all factored in as we design the hours of the operations. Now, keep in mind that the current stadium fields are off limit to the community use in our high school. So there is no community use on our fields for the high school stadium field. Now, given that if the artificial turf is installed, there will be many more opportunities just beyond school activities. It will allow partnership activities and community activities. And far as the noise factor and some of the community impacts will be controlled through the zoning regulations in terms of the noise, the lighting, the hours of the operations. Those will be strictly adhered to. However, the traffic that is related to the events, again, we have to look at the partnerships that are involved in the amount of usage and how we can mitigate some of those traffic concerns. Now, most of our high schools do have somewhere ranges of 300 to 500 plus parking spaces on site, and most dominantly the usage hours are during non-school hours and evening weekends. So we're hoping to address those parking issues. But the part of the traffic study as well as the impact and neighborhoods, that will be part of the design process that will be incorporated into and addressing some of the community concerns. But that process begins once we know we have the green light to proceed with this project.
Mm-hmm. So what I hear you saying is that there currently for natural turf stadium fields, there is no community access. There will be some community access at least if this field is built. Can you give us a sense of how much community access we're talking about?
Sure. So if we count normal hours in a year of operation hours, it's well over 6,500 some hours. This was a study that was done when our work group got together and see what is realistic hours that we can calculate. Roughly, school uses approximately about 1,000 hours. 1,000 to about 11 hours, depending upon different sports program that each school has and so forth. In order to make the financial aspect of the affordability of the project happens, the partnership needs to have certain amount of hours, and there is an ongoing rate that has been established at the community public facility for artificial turf. So it's difficult to charge more than what they would pay for on an hourly rate basis. Number two, keep in mind that these partnerships are based on providing capital dollars all up front for long-term use. So there has to be some calculations that needs to be factored in for escalations or otherwise interest that would have been accumulated if we were to finance this. So given that, the partnership uses approximately about 1,000 hours a year to make the numbers work for about a 10-year period. What that leaves is not counting the month of late November through February, given that this is kind of winter months and there will be limited use, even though there's partnership that uses our fields year-round, even plowing the snows out of the way during the winter season to play on it, not even counting those hours, we're estimating somewhere between 150 to 200 hours. Now, if we have mild winter and if we include additional holidays and that would not normally be encountered, it could be well into several hundred more hours that would be available for community use. So there are plenty of opportunities for community use, but more importantly, we see this as an asset to the community, and it's not just one-time installation. The artificial turf is going ongoing basis throughout its lifetime of the facility.
I'd just like to add one aspect of the community use, which is that in addition to the hours on the actual field that Mr. Song described, there's also a little bit of a ripple effect in that currently if schools have a grass field, their teams, not all of their teams can practice or play on that field, again, because of the limitations in scheduling it. And so then those teams go out into the community. With an artificial turf field, those teams, the schools' teams have more opportunity to stay home, and that also does free up hours in the community that otherwise would be taken up by the schools. So it's a little bit of a ripple effect there that, again, is a net benefit to the system of fields.
Right. I think that is a good point. What are the proposals currently in terms of how late the field could be used, and how often would it likely be used up to the latest time it could be used?
So there's a slight differentiation between the county zoning regulation versus some of the municipality regulations. But however, it does allow up to 10 o'clock at night, and that's what we're limiting to. And some regulation allows up to 11 o'clock at night. But we're trying to limit our partnership use to no later than 10 o'clock at night. Now, we're also anticipating, and the contract has not been finalized or negotiated yet, but as we look into our usage, during the weekdays is not every day. It might be 2 nights during the fall, possibly 3 nights during the spring season, and mostly during the daytime during weekends. So mostly during the weekday, the activities are going to be practices as well, and the weekend use is going to be more for their competitions and our use. So each partnership contracts and usage is varying from school to school.
Mm-hmm. I would urge you to limit it to no later than 10 o'clock at night, given that the Churchill field is located very close to many homes. And I can see how that would be a significant impact if it was 11 o'clock rather than 10 o'clock for a lot of people. So how are you, is that your intention?
That is, our intention is actually earlier than that, if possible, and because we also need a time to clean up the facilities after the community use and making sure the facility is ready for next day of school as well. So
okay.
We have to allow enough ample time. And it is noted that we recognize certain schools are a little more urbanized and in a commercialized zone versus some schools are in residential districts, that we have to respect the quietness, I guess, for the neighborhood surroundings.
I see. So you'd want to finish it up a little earlier than 10 for the game so you could clean up and be out afterwards by 10.
That's what our intention is.
Okay. All right. I encourage you to do that because I think that would strike a fair balance with the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Andrews. Councilmember Branson?
Yeah. Once this field is built, and I guess the other partnership models would tell the tale. Who determines who uses the field? Who makes the determination?
There are 3 stakeholders, if you will. The school hour, again, school has the priority use. So during the normal school hours for the physical education programs and the athletic events, that it's scheduled a year in advance. And furthermore, it's throughout the entire 10-year durations. The second primary user will be priority be given to the partnership in terms of the hours that they need to get. Again, we're shooting for approximately 1,000 hours in a year for a partnership. The remaining hours throughout the winter months, as well as some of the throughout the season that I mentioned, either 150 hours or more, depending on the weather conditions of the winter season, will be coordinated and reservation process that's already in place by the community use of public facilities. So any community members who wish to use artificial turf and check the availability, they can check with community use of public facilities and make the arrangement that way.
So the sort of leftover hours fall to Montgomery County government to figure out for people to be able to access.
Sure.
Okay. So and I think that's the because this is a multifaceted thing. I do understand that it's not up to this council to determine the merit of the selection process. I get that. But I think it's worth pointing out that in the RFP, the competitiveness, if you will, of the selection process is what's called into question. I think we've asked to have some additional information provided on that selection process, have we not?
The council has expressed interest, and this is part of the recommendation in the packet, on understanding generally the structure of the partnership agreements and the structure of that evaluation process. I don't think it was the council's intent to go into this specific example, but again, really to understand generally
process.
the structure and the process of that.